Alright, so in this video I figured we could talk a little bit about my 220 gallon that's upstairs. Lighting, filtration, substrate, fish, just all your typical stuff. And I guess we'll start with the fish. And all the fish that are in here are Masaba Mugunga, and those are all Mbuna. And I decided to go with the species only tank in here because I came across these fish and I just really like them. The females are that yellow tangerine color and the males are the blue that you see. And the males have a really cool pattern. It's kind of blotchy and random. It's kind of hard to see because all they care about is food, of course. But yeah, you can see that's a real nice male there. And all these fish came from Imperial Tropicals, in case anyone's wondering. And the cool thing about these fish I like too is, at birth they're all yellow, but as they mature, the males will slowly go from a yellow to a slight purple into their full blue. You can see them here. And they retain a little bit of yellow in their tail fin. And I just think they're really cool. I mean, it's just like any other Mbuna. But I will say this, the females are definitely the most aggressive I've seen out of all Mbuna. They just more aggressive towards each other than the males are to other males or even to the females. I've considered adding maybe one more species to this tank, but for right now, I think I'll keep it like this for a while. My plans in the long run are to basically take some of the fry I have downstairs, which I probably got about 100 now, and once they're around 2 inches, maybe 3, stock this tank with them. Not all 100, of course. I'd like to have maybe 30 to 40 fish in here, probably most likely 30. End up with maybe 10 males, 20 females, maybe a couple more females than that. I guess we'll see how it plays out, because the males are still really aggressive though. And I really wanted this tank to be, a biotope and replicate an environment the best I can. So I get a lot of questions about my substrate, and the substrate is actually play sand and Home Depot all-purpose sand. So it's got a really nice texture. It's got a lot of fine sand, as you can see, and a lot of, miscellaneous little pebbles and bits, and I think it has a really realistic look. In the video here, the sand looks a lot whiter than it really is. It's got more of a light brown appearance if you're looking at it in person. So that turned out pretty good. I will say this though, if you try and go that route like I did, obviously I'm sure most of you guys have used play sand, and it's rinsed pretty well, but you still have to rinse it. But the all-purpose sand, you have to rinse the hell out of it, otherwise your tank will be cloudy forever. The rocks are actually Tennessee fieldstone, which is a type of sandstone. So I think that replicates their environment pretty well too. Some are more rounded, some are kind of geometric, and I've got a lot of good algae growth growing on here. Some brown, some turning green. So, occasionally I'll see them grazing on that. I'm hoping to really get a lot of green on here. It's just taking its time, and every once in a while I like to move the rocks around too, to clean waste up and whatnot. So that works out real nice, and I'm pretty happy with it. The 2 heaters you see are Eheim Jagger 300 watts, which I've had no problems with. I really like really consistent temperatures. It keeps the tank right at 80, between 80 and 82, depending on how cold it gets outside or whatnot, or what the house temperature is. But it's really consistent, a really nice heater. Lighting on here is 2 Current USA LED Plus, which those are great too. I mean, there's no effects here, no editing. I mean, the colors are great, and the lights are just on their standard bright, just white, max light, which I pretty much normally leave it at that. Occasionally I'll dim it, but normally I just leave it on 100%. Filtration is an FX6 and FX5. There's a sump under there too, which a lot of you guys saw on my Instagram, but the pump took a crap on me, so currently it's not running. All the plumbing for the filters, as you can see, is all hard pipe. It's 1-inch PVC, which is maybe hard to see. Yeah, you can't really see, but it runs behind the tank and runs down to the basement to 2 canisters, which I'll show you guys that here in a second. And so far it's worked out great. In the future, when I stock this thing more, because it's pretty, it's stocked pretty light for a 220 gallon right now, but in the future I'll probably get another FX6. Maybe a bigger sump, just because I like playing with the plumbing and doing that, but most likely an FX6 to start, and we'll see how it goes from there. So let's take a closer look at the filtration. Alright, so now we're down here in the basement looking at where the 2 filters sit, which is about, 2 feet, 2.5 feet the bottom of filters below the joist, and the tank top's probably about 6 feet off the ground, so they're about 8 or 9 feet below what the actual tank is. And if you guys are wondering how I transitioned from PVC to the filters, you can see there I actually use 1-inch Spaflex. I took off the stops that come with the filters because Honestly, I didn't like them. I felt like they limited flow. And put the Spaflex right on over where the stops will normally be, and put a hose clamp on there. And I'll warn you, if you try and do this, it is really difficult to get that Spaflex over that nipple there, and you're going to have to heat it up a little bit to get it to work. But I really wanted to go that route because that way it leaves me just one hose barb or one hose clamp, and then the rest will just be glue fittings. So, you know, this is how they sit. Union for the outlet, union for the inlet, you know, valve for both in, out, you know, pretty standard. Same with this filter over here, same thing. And then as you can see, the 4 lines run straight up to the floor and then up the side of the tank upstairs. And then also this 1-inch line here runs up to the floor, up over to the top of the tank, and that's what I use to fill, and that comes off of the filter system right here. So now I'll go upstairs and show you guys where they come up and how I do water changes with this tank. Alright, so we're back upstairs now, and now you're looking at the 4 lines that come up from the filters, you know, the intake and the returns, and each one is 4 1-inch 90s that are resting on the brim, and the 2 returns are 90s turned onto the T's. And everything below this point is in glue, and I did that so that I could manipulate it if I want, especially the outlets here, so I can turn these 90s up or down or wherever I prefer to have surface agitation and kind of get the current where I want it going. And at the ends here where you see the caps, originally when I did this, I had 90s coming out of there as well, and it seemed to work pretty good, but it kind of made a dead pull in the center with the way the current was. So I put caps on there and have the 2 ends running now, and it makes a really nice even current that pushes all the waste, you know, from the opposite end of the tank right back to the intakes. The intakes are on the same end as the returns, and if you do this right, you can basically get a nice current in your tank that cycles all your waste right back to your intakes, which is always a good thing, you know, makes life easier. And right now in the 90s, there's 1 by 3/4 bushings in there, and I also tried 1 by half, and I found that 3/4 seems to be the best current. It's a decent little flow, but it's not pushing the fish around the tank, which is always nice too. And of course, those aren't glued either, so I can change those out whenever I like and play around with that. And then that line that comes up from the basement from the filter, this is what I use to fill the tank during water changes. So right now, just open it up to fill and then close it when I'm done. A lot of people ask why don't I just go ahead and put, you know, say a drip system or, you know, auto top off, something of that nature, but really I just kind of like being in complete control, I guess, of, you know, water coming in, water coming out. There's nothing wrong with those systems, they're great, I just prefer to do it this way, I suppose. Maybe in the fish room one day if it gets real huge and it becomes more of a burden than something I enjoy, I consider that, but I think I always keep this tank this way. So let me show you guys how I change water out. So here's what's under the tank, and these 2 lines here are the returns that are putting water back in the tank, and each one of those lines I have T's cut in with pipes coming over to this down here, which is what's called a floor sink. You can get any commercial plumbing supply. And basically when I do water changes, I open these 2 valves here, like you see, close these valves, and now my filters, rather than pumping water back into the tank, they're now pumping the water out. So I'm using my 2 filters to drain the tank, which is nice because it's around 1,000 gallons per hour I'm draining. It's really, really fast and really efficient. If you look up here, it's kind of hard to tell in this video, but it will drain about half this tank in probably 3 minutes or so. So it's really, really fast and really nice. Easy way of doing things. And then once I have it drained to the level I like, always open these 2 back, but first you want to put a lot of pressure on your pumps. Go ahead and close these ones back. So just reopen these 2 and close these ones. And now the pump's putting the water back in my tank. So yeah, it works out really nice and makes water changes quick and easy, you know, especially on a tank this size. It's nice to make that easy, and you don't want it to be any harder than it has to be. So that's how that's working. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you had any thoughts or questions about my tank, maybe this would help. And if you have any other questions, on how I did any of the plumbing or any of that stuff, just feel free to ask. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks.